Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. The photo found me during a 10-minute lull I take behind the office, where the stairwell smells like concrete dust and burned coffee. My phone buzzed, and there it was, my girlfriend, my fiancée, tilting her face up to a man I'd never seen, both of them locked into a kiss you don't confuse for a joke. The caption read, "Just having fun." I stood there with the door propped by my shoulder, city wind slipping through the gap, and felt everything in me go very quiet. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 36, a financial analyst in Chicago. We've had a venue on hold and a catering tasting penciled in for next week. I typed 4 words under her post. Fun ends here, and let my thumb hover long enough to feel the choice settle into my bones before I hit send. If I'm honest, the picture didn't surprise me so much as confirm something my gut had been whispering for months. She used to leave her phone on the table, screen up. Lately, she set it face down, like every buzz was a secret best kept from light. Date nights kept rescheduling themselves into vague friend plans. She started using big words like spontaneity as if it meant without you, and smaller ones like relax when I asked the kind of simple questions 2 people planning a life together should be able to answer without a fight. It wasn't one argument. It was a repeating draft of the same argument. I'd reach out, she'd dodge, then find a way to make my reaching the problem. I spend my days reading contracts, spotting clauses that make numbers behave, paying attention to the places people tend to skip because the font gets small and the stakes get large. That part of me took over as soon as I recognized his hand on her jaw in the frame, the tilt of intimacy that doesn't leave room for misunderstandings. I took a screenshot, then a second one with the timestamp and the location tag. The likes stacked up, friends from her Pilates class, a couple of bridesmaids, one of those friends who tries to look like trouble on purpose. They weren't shy. Fire emojis. A queen comment. Someone wrote, "Love this energy." I didn't answer any of them. I slid my phone into my jacket and stood there long enough to feel the sting fade into a kind of clean. Back at my desk, the spreadsheet I'd been working on had the same calm logic I needed. Rows, deadlines, costs. In another tab, the wedding folder I'd made looked almost identical: venues, deposits, deadlines. I'd built it because I like order, but also because I understand how hope can overpay when it's not anchored to a plan. She'd teased me once for color-coding our vendor list, told me I made romance look like procurement. I remember laughing with her then, because back then I thought we were joking from the same side of the table. Now I saw it differently. I'd been building a life. She'd been curating an audience. The stairwell routine started a few months ago, after she told me we needed more air in our relationship. I took that seriously. I started lifting again before work, put my name down for a weekend trail run, and invited her to join me on a museum late night. She said maybe, then never asked about it again. What she did bring up, over and over, were the trips her friends were taking, the parties that didn't start until 11, the rooftop photos where everyone looked 22 and frictionless. I'd look at those squares and think about the early mornings it takes to afford a venue in this city, the unsexy parts of commitment like saving for furniture you don't have to assemble, and wonder when late nights became a personality you could wear like a jacket. I'm not proud of this, but I've been bracing for a hit I couldn't name. Not with suspicion, more like a man who sees clouds building at the lake and moves the cooler before the storm flips it. The ring policy sat marked in my email, the deposit windows starred. I drafted a budget we could live with if one of us lost a job. None of that felt romantic. It felt like love's infrastructure, the part no one claps for until the lights go out and you still have a flashlight in the drawer. When the photo went live, I felt those quiet preparations click into place, not as revenge, just as proof I hadn't been asleep at the wheel. She'd posted at lunchtime, not tucked away at night. That told me it wasn't an accident and it wasn't meant to disappear. The city doesn't care about your private life beyond the way you carry yourself while it happens, and I found myself walking to the street-level cafe for a black coffee like a man who just made a decision and needs his hands to do something simple. My phone kept pulsing. Someone tagged me under the photo with a question mark. Another asked if our engagement party was still on. You learn a lot about yourself in the half hour after you've been humiliated in public. A younger version of me might have begged for context, demanded names, demanded that she pull the post down and apologize. I stood in line, paid cash, and stared at the chalkboard that listed scones we weren't ordering because we were trying to eat better before the wedding. I almost laughed. The barista, a kid with a nose ring and the patient face of someone who has seen worse, handed me the cup and said, "You good?" The honest answer was no, but not in the way people mean when they say it. I felt steady. I felt like a man who finally stopped arguing with the weather. On the sidewalk, I opened our shared calendar and saw the week we'd planned. Tasting on Tuesday, ring resize pickup Wednesday, venue walkthrough Friday. I remembered the weekend we'd toured the space, the way she'd spun under the chandeliers and said, "Can you believe this?" If I close my eyes, I can still feel the soft shock of her palm finding mine in that hallway. That memory didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It felt like proof we'd tried, and also proof of where the trying had stopped. I walked back upstairs with the coffee and sat in the meeting I was supposed to lead. I kept my voice even as I outlined the next quarter's risks and the mitigations we'd put in place. That's my job. Name the risk, build the plan, execute without heat. When the meeting ended, I opened my Instagram, checked that my comment was still there, and watched as her friends replied with laughing faces and "OMG, calm down." Someone wrote, "Boys are so insecure." The man in the picture kept his profile private. None of that surprised me. What did surprise me was how quickly my brain stopped trying to translate their noise into anything meaningful. On the Uber home, I let the city blur. I counted lights. I thought about how many times we'd almost talked and then chosen silence because it was easier than being honest. I thought about how easy it is to confuse attention with affection, performance with connection. At a red light, I opened the Notes app and typed 2 lines. Pick up the suit from the tailor before they donate it. Cancel the Saturday brunch reservation. Then I deleted the second line and changed it to something truer. Eat alone Saturday. Bring a book. By the time I reached my building, the first wave of fury had burned off and left something cleaner in its place. I set my keys in the bowl by the door and looked at the small stack of envelopes we'd been saving from vendors. For a minute, I stood there with my hands on the counter, the kitchen quiet, the radiator clicking like a metronome. I didn't open anything. I didn't pour a drink. I just let my breathing slow down until it matched the rhythm of the apartment. It's strange what part of you wakes up in a moment like that. I made pasta. I washed the dishes. I took out the trash she'd promised to take before work. None of it was martyrdom. It was evidence that the life I keep doesn't implode because someone else wants a floodlight. The photo existed. The kiss existed. The caption existed. My 4 words existed, too, and I was going to build from them like a foundation, firm, level, enough to carry what comes next. By late afternoon, the post had done what she wanted. It gathered an audience. My lock screen stacked with previews until the numbers blurred. DMs from people I hadn't seen since college, a couple co-workers who never message outside office hours, and her friends performing damage control like it was their second job. The tone was the same from all directions. Relax. Don't be dramatic. It's just a joke. The photo, a kiss you could measure with a ruler, wasn't a joke. The caption wasn't a mistake. And my line under it, "Fun ends here," wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. She texted first, "You're making this weird." Then, it was a dare. We were playing around. I read both twice. I sent one message back, the only question that mattered and the only one I was willing to ask. "Is there someone else?" The typing dots came and went like a stutter. "You're being insecure," she wrote. Then a longer paragraph about trust, about me policing her fun, about how I should rise above internet nonsense. I didn't answer. Silence is not indecision. Sometimes it's the only language people hear. Within half an hour, she had deleted my comment and turned off replies under the photo. Screenshots don't care about edits. A bridesmaid DM to say everyone was overreacting and that the guy was a friend of a friend. Another wrote a mini lecture about how public relationships require thicker skin. I put my phone face down and finished my deliverable. The numbers still had gravity. I liked that about them. No matter how many people shouted, the math didn't flinch. When I left the office, the sky had that early evening steel to it that makes a city honest. On the train, I scrolled the thread one more time. Someone had tagged me with a string of question marks before she killed the comments. A mutual posted a story with her drink held high and a caption about choosing joy. The choreography was familiar. Minimize, reframe, accuse. I thumbed to our shared calendar. Tasting, ring resize, venue walkthrough. and felt the strange calm of a man watching a storm he already boarded up for. At home, I set the phone on the counter and let the apartment be a normal place. I cooked. I ate. I washed the pan. After, when the urge to explain began its usual rise, I took out a legal pad and wrote down facts. Fact, kiss, timestamped. Fact, caption, public. Fact, deletion of my comment. Fact, DMs shifting blame. I don't keep lists to win arguments. I keep them to keep my head clear. The list ended with another line. Ask once. Observe everything. I had already done the asking. She tried calling at 9. I let it ring out. A text followed. If you won't pick up, it looks bad for both of us. For both of us. The symmetry she wanted was the kind that spreads guilt until it feels shared. I poured water, stood by the window, and watched a couple arguing on the sidewalk below, arms slicing the air, words wasted on volume. I decided I wasn't going to be part of that play. 10 minutes later, can we talk tomorrow? Not like this. I typed what do you want to say, and didn't send it. I deleted the draft and went back to the legal pad. In a second column, I listed windows and terms from our vendor contracts, grace periods, refund thresholds, the conditions that separate expensive lessons from clean exits. Pressure arrived from angles I hadn't expected. One of her coworkers messaged a long defense about European culture and how Americans misread affection. We were not in Europe, and even if we were, my line applies on every continent. A mutual cousin sent a prayer hands emoji and a note that I should choose love over ego. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb until morning. When people don't have to live with the consequences, they love to give advice. I slept. Not perfectly, but enough for the mind to file what mattered and discard the rest. At sunrise, I ran the lake path and let the cold settle my chest. Back home, I showered, made eggs, and reviewed my day. There's a way to move through betrayal that doesn't require theatrics. Water, sun, time on your feet, work done well. Before leaving, I checked my messages. A new one from her. We should meet at lunch. This has gotten out of hand. And then, seconds later, remove the screenshots. That told me everything. Truth doesn't fear documentation. Only stories do. At lunch, I booked a small meeting room and sat with my laptop open, calendar on one side, wedding folder on the other. I drafted an email to vendors, unsent, requesting itemized cancellation terms. I copied in our case numbers, highlighted grace windows in yellow, added a note about the ring insurance under my policy. I created a neutral summary I could forward to families if needed. No names or adjectives, just the status of a plan that no longer held. Then I closed the laptop and walked to the street for air, because preparation is not the same as reaction. Part of control is choosing when to move. She called again mid-afternoon and left a voicemail I didn't listen to. The transcript popped up anyway. We need to get ahead of this. People are asking questions. I wasn't. That mattered to me. When you stop performing for the audience, you remember the show was never yours. 2 of her friends posted quotes about forgiveness, and everybody makes mistakes. Another did a story with a black screen that read, "People love drama. Keep your opinions to yourself." The irony made me smile. They wanted quiet on demand after broadcasting the opening act. In the late afternoon lull, my manager asked if I needed to take the rest of the day. I told him I was good to finish my sprint tasks and would be out early Friday regardless. No details. He nodded the way men do when they see a line you're holding and decide not to cross it. I finished, sent clean handoffs, and felt my shoulders unlock. Action loves order. Disorder feeds panic. On the train home, I wrote my final text to her for the day. I'm available at 7 p.m. for a 10-minute call. One question, is there someone else? It wasn't bait. It was the last door I'd leave unlocked. Her reply arrived at 6:12. I'm not doing ultimatums. Either you trust me or you don't. I put the phone away and cooked anyway. Chicken, rice, vegetables, nothing complicated. At 7:03, she wrote, "Fine." No, there isn't. The word sat there, thin as tracing paper over an image that didn't match. After dinner, I opened Instagram once more. The photo remained. The caption remained. The comments remained off. In my saved folder, the screenshots, the timestamps, the engagement invoices, the vendor correspondence ready to send when I decided to send it. I checked my list again and drew a small box next to ask once. I ticked it and put the pen down. By night's end, the noise had settled into a dull hum. Pressure hadn't changed the facts. Her story had tried on 3 outfits in 24 hours. Joke. Dare. You're insecure, and none of them fit. I brushed my teeth, set out clothes for the morning, and put my phone on airplane mode. If there was a lesson in the past day, it was simple enough to write down without italics. I don't chase chaos. I remove myself from it. The rest would come, and when it did, I wanted my hands steady. I decided to answer the way she asked to be answered, publicly, once, with facts. No speeches or performative pain. I opened my photos, pulled the screenshots, pulled the invoices, and built a carousel on my feed like a project deliverable. If she wanted the story to live online, then it would live there with documentation. Slide 1. Her post, cropped to remove bystanders, but clear enough to show the kiss, the timestamp, the caption, just having fun. No arrows, no snark in all caps. A record. Slide 2. A white card that said, engagement canceled in black, centered, nothing else competing with the point. Slide 3. The venue's cancellation receipt inside the grace window, confirmation number visible, refund line highlighted. We'd toured that place together. Now the paper said what I refused to keep saying with my mouth. We were done. Slide 4. The jeweler's restock form for the ring. Policy applied. Inspection completed. Credit issued to me per the insurance. I didn't add commentary about who paid for what. The receipt spoke its own language. Slide 5. The florist refund confirmation and the travel credit reversal for the mini trip she'd wanted after the engagement party. Amounts visible, dates visible. A map of decisions unwinding in clean lines. Slide 6. A final text slide. I won't be answering questions. Direct all questions to her. That sentence was me choosing air. I wasn't going to host an open mic about my life. In the caption, I wrote 3 lines and pinned them. Engagement canceled, effective today. Receipts and confirmations in the carousel. All questions should be directed to her, not to me. I left comments on. If people wanted to talk, they could talk to themselves. I muted DMs. I removed my tag from her past photos so no one could breadcrumb our history for sport. Then I locked my phone, sat at the kitchen table, and let the quiet catch up. There's a balance to asserting yourself online. Answer once, then leave the room. The room is designed to keep you inside it. Leaving is the point. Next, I opened my laptop and sent 2 emails, neutral, identical, short. One to my family, one to hers. Engagement canceled as of today. Please cease all planning purchases. Vendor cancellations processed. Documentation attached for your records. No explanations. Attached were the PDFs from the carousel. The same truth in an inbox instead of a feed. I finished with a single sentence. For inquiries about the circumstances, please contact her. I wasn't outsourcing compassion. I was directing noise to its source. I archived our shared wedding drive and removed her access to my folders, photos, budgets, timelines. The drive had become a museum for a future that no longer existed. I canceled the tasting, released the photographer's hold, and added a line in my personal ledger for each step, because order is how I stop my head from replaying what I can't control. On my calendar, I replaced venue walkthrough with run plus coffee. Same hour, different oxygen. Part of me expected a call that minute. It didn't come. Instead, the carousel started moving through the city faster than I could, reposted in clusters. Gym friends, co-workers, her circle, mine, the undefined social fog where everyone knows everyone just enough to pretend they care. People asked questions in the comments because that's what the comments are for. I didn't reply. The caption already held my answer. I kept my hands out of it like a builder watching wet concrete set. One touch, and you leave prints you can't sand out later. I walked the 2 blocks to the jeweler to finalize what the form already said. The owner recognized me, didn't ask for the story, just checked the paperwork twice, initialed the margin, and placed the ring back under the glass with the same care he'd used when he handed it to me the first time. Closure, in some lives, is a speech. In mine, it's a counter and a signature and a receipt that says balance, settled. On my way out, I took a photo of the form's top third, the part with the confirmation code, and added it to my files in case anyone later claimed I'd faked it. Back home, I set a rule for myself. No justifying or debating. If someone wanted to convert my life into content, they'd have to do it without me. I changed nothing else about the evening. I stretched, ate simply, put tomorrow's clothes on the chair, and set an alarm that had nothing to do with her. There's a shock in the first hours after you choose yourself. It feels like falling. Then you realize you're standing exactly where you were, minus the weight you had agreed to carry. At 8:14, her name lit my phone. I watched it ring, then stop. A text arrived immediately after. Take it down. You're humiliating me. I read it twice, then once more, because repetition is how you drain the venom out of a sentence and see the bone of it. I typed one reply. I won't be answering questions. Direct all questions to you, and sent it. Quoting myself was deliberate. I wasn't starting a new conversation. I was pointing to the sign on the door. She called again. I let it ring. A string of texts lined up behind it. You're being cruel. We can fix this if you stop now. This is private. Everything we'd been was private, until she changed the terms. I watered the plants and took out recycling I'd been meaning to take out for 3 days. Ordinary tasks have a way of reminding you that your life is not a crisis. It's a sequence of choices. I had made mine. The rest was echo. By 9, people I respected had started commenting on the caption's restraint. A coworker DM'd "clean move" with a thumbs up I didn't need but appreciated for what it was, a nod to acting, not reacting. I locked the phone again. If you stare at applause long enough, it becomes the same trap as anger. Either way, it drags you back to the stage you just left. Before bed, I wrote out my boundary for the next 72 hours on an index card and tucked it in my wallet. No explanations. I wasn't running or hiding. I was establishing a condition under which I could keep my dignity. Tomorrow, the consequence machine would spin as it always does, comments multiplying, narratives trying on new clothes. I turned off the light and lay there with the clean exhaustion that arrives after you align your actions with what you know. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't relief. It was a stable floor. I'd answered once, precisely, and told the world where to send its questions. If anyone didn't like it, they could scroll. If she didn't like it, she could delete her post and speak for herself. Either way, my part was finished. The post didn't rage, it resonated. Shares snowballed. Strangers, co-workers, casual acquaintances, I watched the echo move outward like rings in a lake after a stone. No apologies came through the noise. What came was ridicule, sharp and relentless, aimed squarely where it belonged. Just having fun? Turned into a punchline people used under other clips of public stupidity. The internet didn't argue with her, it graded her. F, with comments. She tried to get ahead of it with a story about context. A poll sticker. Have you ever been judged for a joke? The results were lopsided enough to embarrass a person who still felt embarrassment. Another story followed. Quotes about forgiveness and people making mistakes. The replies that leaked into my DMs weren't forgiving. Women called it what it was. Men called it what it was. A few wrote full essays about integrity and attention addiction. I didn't respond to any of them. My caption had already told the world where to send questions, and the world listened. Most of it, anyway. Then came the voicemails. Her first. Breathless, bargaining, future tense verbs. We can fix, we can talk, we can explain. I let the transcript sit inside the notification shade and didn't tap it. The second was anger. Take it down. You made me look insane. The third, later that night, had a wobble in it. I messed up, but you didn't have to ruin everything. She said ruin like I'd lit the match, as if the receipt carousel had been the fire, not the proof of where it started. Her friends flipped with the wind. The same accounts that had thrown fire emojis under her kiss began throwing gasoline under jokes at her expense. One reposted a meme about brides who RSVP, maybe, to their own wedding. Another typed, "play stupid games," over a screenshot of my slide too. The pylon wasn't noble, but it was honest. People perform morality. They also perform contempt. I left both performances to the audience that needed them. The guy in the photo did what these men usually do, went private, changed his handle, vanished into the gray. A mutual sent a message I didn't ask for. He'd been talking to multiple people. He did this all the time. She was just the one who posted. That single line, just the one who posted, held its own irony. The consequence she wanted for attention arrived on time and in full. Her mother found my number and called twice before lunch the next day. I let both ring out. The third call became a voicemail with the exact ledger she wanted me to hear. Dress deposit, non-refundable. Calligraphy, hotel blocks, flights for 2 elderly relatives who'd already booked because they don't like last-minute anything. She named dollar amounts slowly, like reading an indictment. Do you know what that is for us? She said. Do you know how long we saved to help her? And you canceled everything over a joke? That word again, joke. Heavy with the kind of denial people use to keep their own house from shaking. My email to families had been clear and neutral. My caption had been clearer. Questions belonged to their source. She tried guilt next. A message with old photos. Our first apartment keys, a blurry picture from a rainy night where we'd laughed at nothing. This is us, she wrote. Don't throw it away. I looked at the images and felt exactly what they deserved. Recognition without return. We had been real once. That didn't make now less real. I archived the thread and went for a run. The comments kept multiplying under the carousel. Some praised my restraint. Far more dragged her for the caption that started all of this. Just having fun, got expensive fast, someone wrote beneath the florist receipt slide. Tell the friend of a friend to send a Venmo, another said. A few asked what happened to the ring, slide 4 answered. The algorithm loves precision. So do I. By afternoon, her tone turned practical. When can I get my things? I sent one sentence, see attached, 2 pickup slots, with the building manager. Inventory list included. She tried to extend the conversation into emotion. I didn't take the extension. Logistics only. The first slot came and went while she posted a black square about healing. The manager emailed me that she'd missed the window. I rescheduled for the second slot and returned to my day. Her parents didn't stay purely angry at me. They turned on her, too. A public comment under one of her older photos from her mother's account. We didn't raise you for this. Sat for an hour before it disappeared. That, more than the voicemails, told me where the fault lines ran. Money tightens principles. So does exposure. By evening, her mother called again. The message clipped and hot. You made a spectacle. We spent real money. A lot for us. And you turned everything around because of a picture. Because of a joke. I let the transcript sit unread. I wasn't going to be their scapegoat or her shield. Her last angle was seduction. A photo I'd seen versions of before. Soft light, apology eyes. Come over. Let's talk privately, no phones. That one I didn't archive immediately. I let it rest on the screen long enough to test my own steadiness. Then I typed the line from my caption one more time and hit send. I won't be answering questions. Direct all questions to you. Some consequences unfolded off-screen. HR asked her to delete the comments thread under a coworker's post where she'd been fighting strangers. A bridesmaid quietly dropped out of the group chat and, according to a mutual, returned her dress. People stopped liking her morning gym stories. The trickle of attention that feeds certain kinds of personality slowed to a drip. When attention is oxygen, the first short breath makes panic look like reinvention. She posted a new haircut. The comments still said the same thing. This isn't a Bob problem. Meanwhile, my life remained ordinary in the best ways. I hit my deadlines. I booked the therapy appointment I'd promised myself. I slept through the night and woke without that sour pre-argument in my chest. The building manager supervised the second pickup slot. He sent a photo of the signed inventory list and the empty shelves where her boxes had been. I filed it with the receipts. A day later, the algorithm moved on to fresher chaos. But in smaller circles, the ones that matter, people didn't forget. Her coworkers stopped indulging her revision. Mutuals stopped pretending it had been harmless. The word responsibility started showing up under her posts. The way it does when an audience figures out the protagonist they were supposed to cheer for is the one who built the conflict. That was never my victory to claim. It was simply the truth finding its level. She sent one final message after midnight. Please, can we meet? And I let it evaporate in the blue light. She had made a choice in public and watched its cost arrive in public. My choice was private and simple. Do not re-enter the house you've already walked out of. I turned the phone face down, set an early alarm, and for the first time in months, fell asleep without rehearsing what I would say if I were asked to defend myself. I wasn't on trial. I was done playing. Morning came without the old heaviness. No rehearsed speeches in the shower. I brewed coffee, because the ordinary has a way of steadying your hands when spectacle tries to claim your day. The carousel stayed pinned. My caption stayed simple. The boundary stayed intact. I didn't check the numbers. Attention isn't a currency I accept anymore. Logistics first. I archived the wedding folder and moved the PDFs into a directory labeled closed. I updated my emergency contacts, beneficiaries, and the apartment renter's file. I removed her from anything that gave her access to my life. Cloud folders, calendars, the the small digital places where proximity sometimes pretends to be intimacy. I kept receipts in one place and my calm in another. There's dignity in the unglamorous maintenance of your own house. The building manager sent a final note confirming her pickup was complete. Empty shelf where her books had been. A faint rectangle on the wall where one of her frames had hung. I didn't rush to fill the spaces. I wiped the dust and let the air be air. I boxed the monogrammed flutes we'd stashed for a celebration that no longer applied and dropped them at a thrift store with the other party supplies. Some couple with less to prove could use them. I kept only one thing from the almost life we'd planned. A little notebook with the first sketch of a seating chart. My phone did what phones do. Kept trying to drag me into other people's storms. I set a rule I could live by. If a message asked for context or closure, it was ignored. If a message asked for paperwork or timing, it got one-line precision. I wasn't cruel. I was precise. Precision is what you offer yourself when your feelings try to spend your future like loose change. Work remained a place where the math didn't lie. I hit my marks, pushed the projects I'd promised, and told my manager I'd be taking Friday mornings for a month to run longer and see a therapist. He nodded. No explanations needed. At lunch, I walked the lake and let the wind take whatever residue the morning hadn't cleaned out. You don't have to forgive to be free. You have to stop negotiating with what already told you the price. The invitations to talk arrived in predictable waves, apologies, half explanations, small gifts at the front desk that the doorman politely returned. Small, stubborn life returned in ways that mattered. A Saturday morning with no errands tied to a registry. A run that went farther than I planned. A dinner with friends who didn't ask for details. I changed the apartment one piece at a time, less out of symbolism, more because I wanted to live where I lived. I moved the desk toward the window. I replaced a lamp we both hated but kept for reasons that now read like an apology. I bought a plant the label said was hard to kill. It looked good by the books that stayed. There was a moment everyone expects, the cinematic invitation to meet for closure. It arrived in a long message with careful phrases about timing and pressure and being human. I read it twice. The generosity in me wanted to grant the meeting. The clarity in me had already granted something better, a clean ending. I typed one sentence I could stand behind a year from now as easily as today. There's nothing to discuss. I wish you well. Then I softened nothing, added nothing, sent nothing else. If there was justice, it didn't look like a trophy. It looked like a week where my name stayed mine, and my time belonged only to the things I chose. The ring credit cleared. I moved it to savings. The vendors wrote back with final confirmations. I filed them and stopped opening emails with the subject regret. The algorithm spun to a new scandal. The people who mattered remembered, not to keep picking the scab, but to mark the line. This is how you act when someone treats your commitment like content. I didn't reinvent myself. I woke up, worked, lifted, ate, slept, and made space for better questions. Not why did she do it? Not could I have prevented it? The question was simpler. What kind of life requires me to shrink? Then the corollary. What kind of man keeps living there once he knows? I wrote the answers on an index card and tucked it in the same wallet slot where I'd kept my boundary. It said, "Respect is my price of admission, with no discounts." A week later, I walked past the venue on my way home and heard music through the open doors. Another couple was rehearsing under the chandeliers. The groom looked nauseous happy. The bride's friends were arranging centerpieces and arguing about table numbers. I stood there long enough to decide whether looking would hurt. I wished them what I'd wanted for us. A private life that doesn't need applause. Then I kept walking. Eventually, the last text came in from an unknown number with the familiar cadence. "Can we talk?" And I did the simplest, most honest thing I could do. I deleted it as a refusal to recruit my future into managing someone else's past. Some stories end with a door slamming. Mine ended with a man choosing not to step back through a door he already closed. If there's a moral, I won't pretend it's complicated. She posted the kiss because attention felt like oxygen. I posted the receipts because truth doesn't. The rest of the world did what it does, cheered, jeered, moved on. I didn't need their chorus to know what mattered. I had a quiet apartment, a clear calendar, a body that felt lighter because it wasn't carrying a performance anymore. That's not revenge. That's alignment. I don't have a triumphant final line beyond the one that has carried me since the stairwell. I set a boundary and kept it. I canceled what tried to cancel me. I stayed intact. And when I say respect is not negotiable, I mean it in the least dramatic way possible. The next person who asks for a place in my life will meet a man who already knows the terms and won't move them for likes, for pressure, or for fear of being alone.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.